On the surface, Riverview High School looks like the post-racial ideal school, serving an affluent, diverse, and liberal district. The school is well funded, its teachers are well trained, and many of its students are high achievers. Yet Riverview has not escaped the same unrelenting question that plagues schools throughout America. Why is it that even with all the circumstances seem right, Black and Latino students continue to lag behind their peers? This book, an in-depth study with far-reaching consequences, would help me, as well as children, recognize inequities in social structure. This book critiques the inequalities that exist within a middle-class suburban school. Despite their best intentions, I firmly believe to eradicate racism, we as a society must do so at its roots. The authors of the book structured the text to identify structural inequalities, institutional practices, and racial ideologies and how these factors reinforce one another. The authors also point to the overarching political, economic, and social disparities. For Riverview, the planners, the administrators, and many of the major decision makers are all white. By institutional practices, the actual implementation of school programs, practices, and policies all go to accelerate racial differences and achievement gaps between the whites and the blacks. The conclusion made by the authors is very interesting. While they believe that race is a social and political category, it cannot be the cause of different SAT scores. Why then the disparity in achievement? In a startling conclusion, the authors assert that race matters. Race plays a key role in academic achievements. The problem lies in our assumptions when we try to social engineer the integrative process. Amanda Lewis studies racial dynamics in the contemporary U.S. Her research focuses on how race shapes educational opportunities and how our ideals about race get negotiated in everyday life. She is the author of the award-winning Race in the Schoolyard, Negotiating the Color Line in Classrooms and Communities, along several other volumes. She is on the faculty in the Department of Sociology and African American Study at the University of Illinois at Chicago. John Diamond is a sociologist of education who focuses on how race, ethnicity, and the social class intersect with school leadership practices and policies to shape educational opportunities and outcomes. He is the Hoff Bascom Professor of Education at University of Wisconsin's Madison School of Education. Previously, he was an Associate Professor of Education at the Harvard Graduate School of Education and past Research Director for Consortium of U.S. schools that use research to address racial achievement disparities. Both authors are concerned with the area of addressing racial inequality in schools and achievements. The author's three main points are the following as it relates to racism. Despite good intention, racism still thrives. Example number one. Despite the help given, 90% of students in the AP classes are white. About 80% of all the honor students are white. Example number two, Lewis and Diamond persuasively explain the gross misalignment between abstract values and unequal outcomes. Example, the Riverview community may value diversity and equality, but institutional policies, implicit and explicit biases, and racial ideologies result in the disparate educational outcomes among students. Hence, despite a racially integrated school context, white students continue to soar past their Black and Latino peers with respect to the test scores, grade point averages, placement into gifted academic tracks, high school completion, and college attendance records. Example number three, in a racially diverse school like Riverview, parents, teachers, and students can value diversity and equality in principle, but they can also behave in ways that exacerbate and reproduce class and racial hierarchies, resulting in an achievement gap that will not disappear with race-neutral policies. Third and final example. The strength of Lewis and Dahmer's research lies in their exposition of the ways in which status beliefs on the part of teachers, parents, and students explain why white students are more likely to be tracked into advanced placement classes, and also why Black and Latino students are more likely to be disciplined. These status beliefs affect which students are perceived as capable, hardworking, and deserving of second chances, which in turn affects the decision about academic tracking and discipline. I was extremely familiar with the information that I read in the book about racism. Racism cannot thrive where diversity and inclusion are at the forefront. The truth is, kids are impacted by race at a very early age. As early as 3 months, a baby's brain can notice racial differences in the people around them. By age 2, children soak up the stereotypes about race and may express these with fear. By age 4, children can directly express biases regarding race by teasing. By age 8, children are aware of social norms and can express biases in a more subtle form. By age 12, many children become set in biased thoughts, actions, and decisions. Exposing children to the importance of diversity helps in all good and decent endeavors. Lewis and Dahmer also urged restorative justice in place of criminalizing children, shifting away from a focus on blame and punishment to a focus on repairing harm that violations to community norms do to relationships and communities. What to do about white parents hoarding opportunities, using their social capital and personal connections to ensure better outcome for their kids at the expense of others. Lewis and Dahmer asked us to expand our concern beyond our own families to our broader communities. My favorite part of the book was that the author's perspective on racism appeared to be very accurate in most of the descriptions and vividly described today's hidden school environment, that all teachers should speak out. I respect the author's position on how they portrayed the school's environment. What I did not like was the evidentiary data collected revealed that the Black security guards were harsher on the Black students than the other students. There was one incident wherein a Black teacher stated that the reason she did not question the white students on their erratic behavior was because she did not want to have to respond to white parents. I highly recommend that this book remain on the class reading list. This book keeps me reminded that as a country, we are not where we were, but we still have a long way to go toward leveling the playing field for all students. Providing an assurance that the educational environment is free from disparaging inequities should be one of the primary purposes of education.